welcoming to Griffonomics.
It's good to be back.
Today we are looking at something that feels like it's, I don't know, ripped right out of a techno-thriller novel, but it's actually happening right now in February 2026. We are doing a deep dive into RCAT Holdings. And if you think you know this company, if you think, oh yeah, the drone guys, you might want to buckle up.
You really might.
Because the script is completely flipped.
It really has. We aren't looking at a scrappy startup trying to sell, a few quadcopters to hobbyists anymore. Not at all.
No.
We are looking at a company attempting a fundamental metamorphosis. They are trying to go from being a roll-up of smaller tech firms into a vertically integrated, all-domain defense contractor.
All domain.
Okay.
That's the buzzword we're going to be unpacking today. Air, land, and sea. But before we get into the tech, which is frankly very cool, we have to talk about the numbers.
Oh, yeah. The numbers.
Because looking at the data from Q4 2025 and, early 2026, we are seeing what investors love to call a hockey stick moment.
That is the perfect term for it. It is a massive inflection point. To give you the raw numbers, year-over-year revenue has jumped 646%.
646%. That is wild. I mean, in the world of mature companies, you are happy with 5%.
For sure.
In the world of high-growth tech, you are ecstatic with 50%. 600% is a different species entirely.
It's a different stratosphere.
Yeah.
And to put it in perspective, their Q4 2025 revenue alone, which came in between, $24 million and $26.5 million, that single quarter is projected to exceed the revenue of the entire previous 12 months combined.
So they made more in 3 months than they did in the whole previous year.
Yeah.
That's the definition of scaling up.
It is.
But the question is, why now? What sparked this explosion? Is this just a lucky break, or was this engineered?
It's a convergence. A perfect storm, really, of three things. First, they have the technology ready at the right time. They spent years in R&D while everyone else was, frankly, trying to sell toys.
Right.
Second, the Pentagon has opened a massive funding funnel called the Drone Dominance Initiative, which is a billion-dollar program we'll get into.
$1 billion.
And third, and this is maybe the most important piece of the puzzle, a vacuum has been created in the market by the ban on Chinese drones, specifically DJI.
Right, the DJI ban. We're going to get deep into the regulatory stuff later because it's actually fascinating how a piece of legislation can basically hand a company a captive market.
It's a kingmaker.
But the mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We need to figure out if this is sustainable. Is RCAT the next big defense, prime like a mini Lockheed Martin? Or are they just a flash in the pan that's going to burn through their cash pile before they can actually build the factories they need?
Precisely. It's an execution play now. They've moved past the idea stage. They have the contracts. Now they have to build the machines. And building machines is infinitely harder than writing code or, making a slide deck.
It's where the rubber meets the road. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with what they actually do. Section 1 of our notes calls this the architecture of all-domain defense, or, as you put it, the three heads.
That's right.
Because RCAT isn't just one thing anymore. It's not just a guy in a garage soldering wires.
No, it's a family of systems. That's the military term for it.
Yeah.
And it's structured around three distinct pillars, three heads of the beast, if you will. You have Teal drones, FlightWave Aerospace, and the new one, Blue Ops.
Okay, let's start with the bread and butter, Teal drones. This is the foundation, right? This is where they came from.
Right. Teal is based in Salt Lake City, Utah. This is their volume player. It's their core SUAS, small, uncrewed aerial systems manufacturing arm. And their flagship product is the Black Widow.
The Black Widow. Great name. Sounds like something out of a comic book, but simpler, more direct.
It fits, it's small, it's lethal, and the goal is to make it ubiquitous. This falls under the category of short-range reconnaissance, or SRR.
SRR. So what does that mean in practice?
Think of this as rucksack portable. It's the drone that a single soldier carries in their pack, pulls out, and can launch in less than a minute to see what's over the next hill or around the next corner in a city.
So paint the picture for me. I'm a soldier, I'm pinned down, or I'm just on patrol. Yeah. I don't have time to call in an airstrike or wait for a satellite pass. I need eyes now.
Exactly. You pull this thing out, it weighs about 4 pounds, 4.26 to be exact. You unfold the arms and it's in the air. It connects to your controller instantly, it's secure. You fly it over the ridgeline, you see the ambush setup, you identify the machine gun nest, and you bring it back.
Or you don't. Is it considered disposable?
It's what they call a tridable. It's disposable if it has to be, but it's valuable enough that you want to keep it. The point is, you don't risk a soldier's life to get that information. You risk a 4-pound drone.
And they have a legacy product there too, right? The Teal 2.
Mhm.
Is that just gathering dust now, or does it still have a role?
No, and this is an interesting point about their manufacturing strategy. The Teal 2 is still around. It's being used for lower cost options and, interestingly, as a swarm platform.
A swarm platform, so multiple drones flying in coordination.
Exactly. Because it's a slightly older generation, the cost basis is lower. So you can afford to put 10 or 20 of them in the air at once, all controlled by one operator or an AI, to overwhelm an enemy's defenses or to search a large area very quickly.
Okay, that's clever. And the manufacturing for both of these, it has a specific certification, AS9100. We hear that a lot in these defense briefings. Why should you, the listener, care about an ISO code?
Because it is the barrier to entry. It is the moat. AS9100 is the gold standard for aerospace quality. It's not just, we built it good.
Right.
It's a rigorous, documented quality management system that traces every screw, every circuit board, every line of code back to its source. If a drone fails in the field, they need to know exactly which batch of carbon fiber it came from or which software build it was running.
Total accountability.
Total accountability. You cannot sell to the Pentagon without this certification. Achieving it takes years and millions of dollars. Red Cat has it. A lot of their would-be competitors do not.
So that's head number one, the short-range game, high-volume, rucksack, portable. Now, head number two is where things get a little more aerodynamic. FlightWave Aerospace. This wasn't originally part of Red Cat, was it? This was an acquisition.
No, this was a strategic acquisition, a very smart one. FlightWave is a California-based aerospace company that Red Cat bought to fill a specific gap, range and endurance.
Okay, explain that.
The Black Widow is great for seeing a few miles out, but if you need to monitor a border crossing or a long stretch of coastline for hours at a time, a quadcopter just doesn't have the battery life. Physics is the enemy here.
How so?
A quadcopter is fighting gravity 100% of the time. All four rotors are constantly pushing air down just to stay level. It's incredibly energy intensive.
Enter the VTL.
Exactly. VTL stands for vertical takeoff and landing. The product here was originally called the Edge 130. It's a hybrid design.
What do you mean a hybrid?
It takes off straight up like a helicopter, so you don't need a runway, you don't need a catapult, you don't need a net to catch it. You can launch it from the back of a truck or a small boat, but once it's in the air, the rotors tilt forward and it flies like a fixed-wing plane.
Ah, I see. So it gets lift from the wings.
And that's the game changer. That gives it vastly superior endurance. It effectively sips fuel, or battery in this case, once it's cruising, compared to the Black Widow, which is gulping it just to stay aloft.
So we're talking about a significant increase in flight time.
Correct. We are talking about tripling or quadrupling the flight time and range. Hours, not minutes.
But there was a hiccup here, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I saw in the notes that they had to pivot a bit on the Edge 130. It wasn't just buy company, sell drone.
They did. And this shows some maturity in their management, I think. The original Edge 130 was a great piece of engineering, very elegant, very efficient. But it was deemed a bit too fragile for the brutal reality of military deployment.
Fragile how?
Soldiers break things. It's just what they do. You throw a pack in the back of a Humvee, you drop it in the mud. You operate it in sandstorms. The original design, with its delicate wings, probably wouldn't have survived its first week in the field. So Red Cat paused, took a revenue hit, and ruggedized the platform.
Smart move in the long run.
A necessary move. They strengthened the airframe, weather-sealed the electronics, and made it soldier-proof. They rebranded it as the Trichon.
The Trichon, okay. And this is aimed squarely at things like customs and border protection, right? Longer missions?
Border patrol, yes, and longer-range ISR intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. It's for when you need to loiter over an area for a long time. Think about monitoring a migrant caravan or watching a specific sector of the border for drug runners. You can't have the drone coming home every 20 minutes for a battery swap. You need it up there for hours.
So we have short-range air and we have medium-range air. Now we get to the wild card. Head number 3, Blue Ops. This is the one that surprised me. Red Cat is building boats.
Not just boats, robotic attack vessels. This is their expansion into the maritime domain. As they like to say, 71% of the globe is water.
Huh. Fair point.
If you want to be an all-domain player, you can't just look at the sky. The next major conflict will likely have a significant naval component.
And they aren't messing around with this. They leased a massive facility. This isn't a rented garage.
No, this is serious capital investment, 155,000 square feet in Valdosta, Georgia. It used to be a lake boat factory, a Regal Boats facility, I believe. So the infrastructure for building hulls, the cranes, the molds, the fiberglass layout areas, was already there.
So they can hit the ground running. What are they building?
They are building uncrewed surface vessels, or USVs. These are autonomous robotic boats ranging from 5 meters up to 11 meters long.
11 meters. That's over 30 feet. That is a significant vessel. That's not a toy.
It is not a toy boat. It's a small ship capable of open ocean transit, carrying significant payloads.
And they partnered with a serious name for the prototypes. I saw Hodgdon Shipbuilding in the notes.
That's a name that carries a lot of weight in the naval world. Hodgdon is based in Maine. They are a historic luxury yacht builder, some of the finest craftsmanship in the world.
Right.
But they also built boats for World War II. They have a deep heritage in military craft. Partnering with them gives RCAT immediate credibility in naval architecture. They aren't just tech guys trying to figure out buoyancy. They are pairing high-tech autonomy with centuries of shipbuilding heritage.
So we have drones in the backpack, planes for the border, and robot boats for the coast. That is a serious portfolio.
It's a complete ecosystem.
But having cool toys doesn't matter if you can't sell them. And this is where it gets really interesting. This brings us to the regulatory moat.
This is the invisible wall that protects their business. You cannot understand the RCAT thesis without understanding the geopolitical landscape that has been built for them.
We're talking about the Blue List and Section 1709 of the NDAA. This sounds like dry legal stuff, but it basically prints money for them if it works.
It does. The National Defense Authorization Act, specifically Section 1709, was the catalyst. It was the spark that lit this fire.
So what did it do?
For years, the commercial and government drone market was absolutely dominated by DJI. They are a Chinese manufacturer, and they had something like 90% of the commercial market. They were cheap, they were good, and they were everywhere.
I mean, if you bought a drone for your nephew or for your real estate business, anytime in the last 10 years, it was probably a DJI.
Almost certainly. But the U.S. government, specifically the DoD and intelligence communities, decided that having Chinese-made hardware flying over critical infrastructure, military bases, and police stations was a massive national security risk.
The fear being what? Data exfiltration.
Data exfiltration, exactly.
Yeah.
Drones mapping American infrastructure in high definition and sending that data back to servers in China. Whether it was happening or not, the risk was deemed unacceptable. So Section 1709 effectively places DJI and another company, Autel, on the FCC covered list.
And being on the covered list is bad.
It's the kiss of death for imports. It means no new FCC authorizations for those foreign drones. If they can't get FCC authorization, they can't legally transmit radio signals in the United States.
So they become very expensive paperweights.
Very expensive paperweights. They are effectively banned from import for any new models.
So overnight, the 90% market share leader is locked out of the room.
And that creates a vacuum, a captive market. We're talking about a roughly $1 billion annual domestic market in public safety, police, fire, and infrastructure inspection.
$1 billion a year.
A year. These agencies have to fly drones. They rely on them now for search and rescue, for fire mapping, for SWAT operations, for inspecting bridges and power lines. But they can no longer buy Chinese. They must buy American, or at least NDAA-compliant hardware.
And that's where the Blue UAS list comes in. It's not enough to just be American, right?
Correct. The Blue List, maintained by the Defense Innovation Unit, is the Department of Defense's seal of approval. It's a white list. It means the drone has been thoroughly vetted for cybersecurity and supply chain integrity.
What does that vetting entail?
It means the Pentagon has ripped the code apart to make sure it's not phoning home to Beijing. It means they've audited the supply chain to ensure there are no suspect Chinese components in critical systems. RCAT's FAing drone, which is their FPV, or first-person view drone, and the Black Widow are on this list.
And being on the list does what for them?
It creates a streamlined procurement path. A government agency, like a police department or even a DoD unit, doesn't have to do months of due diligence. They can just point to the list and buy. It removes all the friction.
It's like a fast pass at Disney World for government contracts.
That is a very apt analogy, and it extends beyond the U.S. The Black Widow was also added to the NSPA catalog.
The NSPA?
The NATO Support and Procurement Agency.
Why did that matter? That's a huge deal, isn't it?
It's a massive deal because it opens up all of Europe and the other NATO allies. It allows any NATO member nation, Poland, Romania, the UK, Germany, to buy these drones without having to negotiate their own complex individual contracts.
So they could just piggyback on the existing framework.
Exactly. It removes the friction from the international sale. If Poland or Estonia needs drones for their border defense tomorrow, they don't want to spend 6 months negotiating terms. They look at the NSPA catalog, see the Black Widow, and click Order.
Okay, so the competition is banned, and the door is wide open for sales to the U.S. and NATO. Let's talk about the big win they just scored, the SRR victory.
This was the validation point. This was the moment the market realized they were a serious player. In the defense world, everyone wants a program of record.
Program of record. It sounds very official. What does it mean for the bank account?
It's the holy grail. It really is.
Yep.
It means you aren't just selling a few prototypes for testing. It means you are written into the official U.S. Army budget. You are a standard piece of equipment for the Army, just like the M4 carbine or the standard issue boot.
Yeah, RCAT got one of these.
They were selected as the sole source provider for the U.S. Army's SRR Tranche 2.
Sole source. That means the Army isn't splitting the order. They aren't buying half from Skydio and half from RCAT. They are buying from RCAT, period.
Correct. For this specific program, they are the one. The initial contract is a $35.1 million LRIP,
LRP.
low-rate initial production. It's the first batch. But that's just the appetizer. The real value is that it establishes the Black Widow as the standard issue scout drone for the Army. Every platoon, potentially every squad, will eventually need these. The follow-on orders could be in the hundreds of millions over the life of the program.
So why did the Army choose the Black Widow? What made it beat out the competition? Was it just price or was it capability?
It was capability tailored for the modern battlefield. The specs tell the story. It weighs 4.26 pounds, so it's portable. It has a 45-plus minute flight time, which is excellent for a quadcopter its size. But the sensors and connectivity are the real keys.
Let's talk about the sensors.
It carries a Teledyne FLIR Hadron 640R. That's a high-end thermal and night vision camera.
So you can see in the dark. But
Yeah.
it's more than that, right? Thermal is different.
Much more. It sees heat signatures. You can spot a vehicle engine that was recently running, even if the vehicle is hidden under a tarp. You can spot a person hiding in foliage. If you are a soldier in the woods, camouflage hides you from the naked eye, but it doesn't hide your body heat. This sensor sees right through it. It's a massive advantage.
But the most critical feature, given what we're seeing in current conflicts, might be the connectivity. We keep hearing about EW in Ukraine.
Connectivity is life or death. The Black Widow uses a Doodle Labs radio designed for electronic warfare resistance.
EW resistance. This is huge right now, isn't it? Because of Ukraine.
Absolutely. The war in Ukraine changed everything about drone warfare. The Russians and the Ukrainians are jamming GPS and radio frequencies constantly. The airwaves are a mess of electromagnetic noise.
So what happens to a normal drone in that environment?
A normal consumer drone just falls out of the sky or flies away uncontrollably when it gets jammed because it loses the handshake with the controller. It becomes useless. The Black Widow is built to fly in those contested environments. It uses advanced techniques like frequency hopping to find a clear channel. It's hardened against jamming.
That's a perfect segue into the next section, the drone dominance gauntlet. This sounds like a gladiator movie.
It effectively is, but for industrial capacity. This is a $1 billion Pentagon program funded by what they call the Big Beautiful Bill. That's the actual executive order nickname, Unleashing American Drone Dominance.
And the goal isn't just to buy drones, right? It's to fix the supply chain. It's a bigger strategic objective.
Exactly. The Pentagon had a terrifying realization looking at Ukraine. They saw that American drone companies were essentially boutique artisans. They were hand-building small batches of very expensive drones.
And that doesn't work in a real war.
It doesn't work in a major conflict. You need industrial scale. You need to be able to churn out thousands of units a month. You need to be able to lose 1,000 drones in a week and replace them the next week without blinking.
So how does the gauntlet work? How does it force that change?
It's structured in 4 phases, running from 2026 to 2028. It's designed to force companies to scale up their production lines while simultaneously driving their costs down. It is a ruthless industrial funnel.
Okay, walk us through the phases.
Phase 1 starts in February 2026, so right now, and runs to July. The award is for 30,000 drones at a price point of $5,000 each.
Okay, $5,000 a drone. That's pricey compared to a DJI Mavic, but pretty cheap for military-grade gear.
Oh, right. But then watch the progression. Phase 2, which runs from August 2026 to January 2027, ramps up to 60,000 drones at the same price. They're testing if you can double your output.
Then comes the squeeze.
Then comes the real squeeze. Phase 3 in 2027 calls for 100,000 drones, and the price target drops to $3,000 each.
Wow.
And finally, Phase 4, the big one, is for 150,000 drones at a target price of just $2,300 each.
So they are demanding a more than 50% price cut while volume goes up 5x. That is intense pressure on the supply chain and manufacturing process.
That is the total addressable market RedCat is fighting for. They have to prove they can drive those efficiencies.
Yeah.
If they can't get their manufacturing costs down, if they can't figure out how to mold plastic cheaper, how to assemble faster, how to source chips better, they will lose money on every single unit in Phase 4.
But if they succeed,
But if they crack the code on mass production, they become the Ford of drones. They become the default supplier for the entire U.S. military and its allies for this class of drone.
that is a high-stakes game, and to win that game, you need more than just hardware. You need software. You need a force multiplier. And this brings us to Section 5, the Palantir multiplier.
Hardware is hard, as they say in Silicon Valley. Margins on hardware are notoriously thin. You're paying for metal, plastic, motors, batteries. There's a floor to how cheap you can make it. But software.
Software is sticky.
Software is sticky and software is high margin. RedCat has formed a very deep strategic alliance with Palantir.
Palantir is a data analytics giant. We usually associate them with the CIA, with hedge funds, massive corporate data mining. What are they doing in a 4-pound drone?
Two main things, and they're both critical. First, on the tactical side, they are integrating Palantir's tactical VNav.
VNav.
Visual navigation. Remember we talked about GPS jamming?
Right. It's a huge problem.
Visual navigation is the solution. It allows the drone to see the terrain and figure out where it is without needing a satellite signal. It navigates by sight, just like a human would.
How does that work?
It looks at the ground, at the buildings, the roads, the rivers, and it compares that live video feed to a map that's stored in its own memory. It then says, okay, that's that river bend, that's that water tower, I know exactly where I am.
That is incredible. So even if the GPS goes completely dark, the drone knows where it is and can complete its mission. It's essentially unjammable in terms of navigation.
Exactly. And for RedCat, this isn't just a tactical advantage, it's a massive financial one. This software integration creates an add-on sale of $12,000 to $15,000 per drone.
Wait, hold on. Let me get this straight. The software costs 3 or 4 times more than the drone itself in the later phases of the gauntlet.
Welcome to the defense industry. The airframe is just the delivery truck. The intelligence inside it is the real product. That software add-on is pure high-margin revenue. It costs RedCat almost nothing to replicate the code once it's written.
So if they sell the drone for $2,300 and the software license for $12,000, the blended margin on that package is spectacular.
It changes their entire financial profile. It's how they get to the 30% gross margins they need.
And what's the second thing Palantir is doing for them?
Operational warp speed. That's the name of the system. RedCat is deploying Palantir's manufacturing OS across its factories in Utah and Georgia.
So Palantir is helping them build the drones too, not just fly them.
Yes. This is Palantir applying its data analytics prowess to the factory floor. They are using Palantir's software to analyze their supply chain in real time. The goal is to identify and resolve bottlenecks dynamically.
Give me an example.
Imagine you were trying to build 14,000 aircraft. That's millions of parts. If a shipment of motors from a supplier in Ohio is late, or a specific CNC machine on the assembly line slows down, or a batch of epoxy isn't curing fast enough because of the humidity,
The whole line could grind to a halt.
exactly. The Palantir software spots that deviation instantly and helps the factory manager reroute resources or adjust the schedule. This is how they plan to support a massive build-out without the wheels falling off.
That's fascinating. It's using AI not just to fly the drone, but to build the drone. It's the nervous system of the factory.
Precisely. And they have other tech integrations, too, that are worth mentioning. They are working with Safe Pro Group on AI-powered Sapper tech.
Sapper tech, like clearing mines.
Exactly. They are training the AI on a dataset of 1.88 million images from the conflict in Ukraine to detect landmines and unexploded ordnance from the air. So a Black Widow can fly over a field and create a map that shows exactly where the mines are before a single soldier takes a step.
That saves lives.
Yeah.
Directly. You don't have to send a person with a metal detector out there into the kill zone.
It's a game changer for route clearance. And then there's a partnership with Redwire. They have this mothership concept.
The mothership, okay.
Imagine a larger fixed-wing drone called the Stalker. It flies high and has long endurance, but underneath its wing, it's carrying a Black Widow.
Like a kangaroo pouch. Or like those old parasite fighters from the Cold War.
Exactly like a parasite fighter. The Stalker flies deep into contested territory, say 50 miles out, where it's too risky to send a helicopter. And then it releases the Black Widow
And the Black Widow does what?
It unfolds, powers up, and goes down to take a closer look at a target, or maybe even perform a kinetic strike, while the stalker circles high above, acting as a communications relay back to base.
That extends the range of the small drone massively.
Yeah.
The Black Widow usually only has a few miles of range from its operator, right?
Yeah. Right. But if you carry it 50 miles out before launching it, you are projecting power deep behind enemy lines with a very small, very deniable asset. It changes the geometry of the battlefield.
Okay, speaking of changing geometry, let's go back to the water. Section 6. The wildcard blue ops. You mentioned earlier that RCAT is building boats, but these aren't just for looking around, are they?
No, not at all. The concept here is the mini aircraft carrier. The 11-meter USV, that big 30-footer we talked about, is large enough to have a flight deck. It can launch and recover Black Widows. It can launch loitering munitions.
What's a loitering munition?
A suicide drone. It's a drone that flies around, circling or loitering over the battlefield, waiting for a target of opportunity, a tank, a radar dish, a command post, and then it crashes into it, detonating a warhead.
So this boat is a robotic launch pad that can sit off the coast and project power inland without risking a billion-dollar destroyer or a human crew.
Exactly. It's a core tenet of modern naval strategy. Manned-unmanned teaming, or MUMT. A small crew on a ship far away, or even an operator hundreds of miles away in a command center in Nevada, can control a fleet of these boats off the coast of an adversary.
And the economics of this are totally different from the small drones. It's a different scale.
Completely different. A Black Widow might sell for $5,000 in the gauntlet. These boats sell for anywhere from $750,000 to $1.5 million per unit.
That moves the needle on revenue fast.
It's immense leverage. Selling just 100 boats generates $75 million to $150 million in revenue. That's equal to selling tens of thousands of drones. And remember, the Georgia factory has the capacity to produce 500 to 1,000 boats a year.
So if they sell at their capacity, that's potentially $500 million, maybe more, in revenue just from the boats.
Correct. That is the hidden upside that a lot of analysts aren't pricing in yet. Everyone is looking at the drones because of the Army contract, but the boats might be the real cash cow in the long run.
But potential doesn't pay the bills today. Let's talk about the cold, hard cash. Section 7, financial realities. Because for all this excitement, all this growth, they are still burning money, right?
They are. It's the reality of scaling a hardware business. But first, let's look at the cash fortress. That's what the bulls on Wall Street are calling it.
The cash fortress.
They ended Q3 2025 with about $212.5 million in cash and receivables.
That's a lot of dry powder. How did they get that?
They did a big capital raise. They raised $150 million in equity in September 2025. This is crucial because it gives them a war chest. It gives them a runway. Analysts estimate they have a runway of about 9 quarters over 2 years at their current burn rate.
So they aren't going to go bankrupt next month. They have time to execute the plan.
They survived the Valley of Death. That's the term for the period where startups die waiting for government contracts to actually pay out. It takes years to get a contract, and during that time, you have to pay your engineers, pay your rent, keep the lights on. Most companies run out of money before the government check clears. RCAT made it to the other side.
But the burn is still ugly, looking at these numbers.
It's not pretty. Operating cash outflow was about $23.9 million in Q3 alone. Year to date, they've burned through $52.7 million in cash from operations. And they posted a net loss of $16 million in Q3. They are spending money to grow.
And the margins, you said hardware margins are thin.
They are currently running at 7% to 10% gross margins. That is not sustainable for a software-enabled technology company. That's a deal breaker for most tech investors.
So what do they need to be?
They need to be much higher. Investors want to see software margins 30, 40, 50%, not grocery store margins.
So what's the path to profitability? What's the magic number they need to hit?
The internal target and what analysts are modeling is to scale to a $240 million annual run rate with 30% gross margins. If they hit that, they break even operationally.
$240 million. And they are currently projecting about, what, $40 million for the full year 2025. So they need to grow 6x from here.
Yes. But remember the hockey stick growth. Remember the 646% jump. If they win the gauntlet phases, if the SRR contract scales up, if the Blue Ops boats start selling, that $240 million is actually within reach in the next 18 to 24 months.
So the math works.
The math works if the execution is perfect. That's the big if.
And the market is betting that it will be. The market cap is hovering around $1.6 billion.
Which means it's trading at about 40 times forward sales. It is priced for perfection. There's no room for error priced into that stock. The market expects them to win the gauntlet. The market expects them to become the dominant player.
And if they stumble?
If they stumble, if the factory has a fire, if the Army delays the next tranche of the contract, if one of their drones fails publicly during a demonstration, the stock has a very long way to fall.
So, bringing it all together, Section 8, final verdict. You're the expert. You've looked at the tech, the financials, the strategy. How do you view this?
I view it as a speculative buy/hold.
Explain that. That sounds like you're sitting on the fence a little bit.
It's about balancing the massive, almost asymmetric upside with the very real, very high execution risk. The potential is massive. The drone dominance program is real money. The regulatory moat against China is solid. That isn't going away anytime soon.
No, the U.S. government is not going to suddenly say, actually, let's go back to buying DJI.
Never. And they have the sole source Army contract for SRR. Those are incredible, durable tailwinds.
It's always a but.
But the execution risk is high. They are trying to manage 3 complex, distinct manufacturing lines, simultaneously drones in Utah, VTOLs in California, boats in Georgia, while scaling from hundreds of units a month to thousands. That is a logistical nightmare.
It's hard to do one of those things well.
It's incredibly hard. Many companies have died trying to scale hardware manufacturing, and their reliance on the government is a double-edged sword.
How so?
Government budgets get delayed. The big, beautiful bill could get tied up in Congress during an election year. If that funding gets pushed to the right by 6 months, that burn rate starts to look very scary again. They are, to some extent, at the mercy of the political cycle.
But the rewards if they pull it off.
The rewards are asymmetric, like I said. If they pull this off, they have a regulatory monopoly on a huge slice of the domestic drone market, plus the high-margin software upside from Palantir. They could transition from a tech startup to a legitimate defense prime. They could be the next General Dynamics for the autonomous age.
That's the hardest leap to make in business, going from innovator to industrial powerhouse.
It is. But they have the cash, and they have the contracts. Now they just have to build the machines.
The factory is the weapon. I like that manufacturing philosophy they have.
It's the truth in modern warfare. It's a lesson we're relearning right now. The side that can build the most machines the fastest and the cheapest usually wins.
Well, this has been an incredible look under the hood of a company that is right at the intersection of technology, geopolitics, and industrial policy. It's not just about gadgets. It's about how the U.S. plans to fight and win wars in the 21st century.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating case study in modern defense economics, and it's happening in real time.
Here's a final thought for you to chew on, listener. We talked about the drones and the boats. We talked about the hardware. But what happens when the software connecting them, that Palantir OS, starts making decisions on its own? When the mothership decides to deploy the Widow without a human checking a box because its AI spotted a high-value target that popped up for only 3 seconds, faster than the pilot could blink. We are building the hardware for a very autonomous future. Is the policy, is the ethics ready for that? Something to think about.
Risk defined, portfolio protected.
Thanks for listening to Griffonomics. See you next time.